So these are the first 3 lenses in Samyang's new V-AF range, a new set of affordable cinema primes to sit alongside their popular VDSLR range. But these ones have autofocus. In fact, Samyang say this is the world's first cinema lens lineup with autofocus. Now, I'm not sure that's 100% true. There have been cinema servo zooms with autofocus from several manufacturers, but this is the first set of matched cinema primes with autofocus, and they are at a very competitive price as well, just like their regular manual VDSLR lenses. At launch, there was just one focal length available, this 75mm, which, by itself isn't really that much use. But now there are 3, a 24mm, a 35mm and this 75mm, and all of them are T1.9. And there are 2 more to come next year, a 20mm and a 45mm. But even with just these 3 lenses, this is now an actual workable option for customers. So let's take a closer look at how they differ from normal cinema lenses and see how well they perform. The first thing you notice is just how small and compact they are. Each lens weighs only 280 grams, so they're incredibly light and all consistent as well, so great for balancing on a gimbal, for example. For perspective on that weight, the 280 grams is under half the weight of their VDSLR lenses, which were already a very small and lightweight option. The design is also dust and splash resistant, which is nice. So although they do feel a bit plasticky to touch apart from the metal front of the lenses, they can withstand the elements quite a bit. They have a few interesting design choices and extra features beyond what you would get on a regular lens as well. The most obvious one is the front. They are a 70mm front diameter with a 58mm filter thread inside. But around that filter thread is this strange looking metal mounting system, and even some electronic contacts as well, which can almost make it look like you're looking at the back of a lens rather than the front. This is a new system from Samyang designed to mount some upcoming exclusive accessories too, which is very intriguing. They haven't said what's coming at all, so leave your guesses and suggestions for what you would like to see them make for this down in the comment section down below. What I'd love to see is a variable ND system, somehow that could talk to the camera through those electronic contacts, but quite how that would actually work, I'm not entirely sure. Or perhaps some kind of anamorphic front adapter which uses the electronic components to keep autofocus functionality. Imagine being able to make these into an anamorphic lens set with autofocus just by snapping the accessory to the front of the lenses. That could be very, very interesting. But let me know what ideas you may have in the comment section. There's also a custom switch on the side of the lens, which by default changes the focus ring to control your iris instead of your focus. And there's a button as well, which is set by default to just lock your focus when you're in autofocus mode. And then when you're in manual focus mode, you can actually save a focus position by holding this button down. And then you simply press it to return back there at any time, which could be really useful. Both this switch and the button can be customized by using Samyang's Lens Station, which is an optional accessory to connect these lenses to a computer. There are also 2 tally lights on the lens, one on the front and one on the side. Although you can't actually turn these off as far as I can tell, which is a shame as they can sometimes show up in reflective surfaces if you get quite close. All of these features are great and help these lenses feel a little bit more modern, a little bit smarter than a regular cinema lens. But these lenses, of course, are all about the autofocus, and they do seem to perform well there. These tests were done on the FX3 and it tracks Patrick perfectly fine. If we zoom in on the bokeh behind him, you can get a really good idea of how smoothly the lens is changing its focus, and it seems pretty smooth really. Perhaps not quite as smooth as a Sony G Master would be, but these do cost significantly less, so that is to be expected. But these certainly seem good enough for most use cases to me. Being able to autofocus does change the way that the focus ring works though. It has to, that's just the way the technology works. Because of that, the focus ring has no hard stops or markings on it like regular cinema lenses do. So that's a big trade-off when using these in manual focus. They are programmed to have quite a long 300-degree linear focus throw on them, which gives you slightly finer control than on the regular stills lenses in manual focus mode. However, they don't feel quite as tactile or accurate as a regular manual cinema lens. So you do have to compromise a bit when in manual focus mode in order to gain the autofocus mode. It's not quite that complete best of both worlds solutions that I think people might be hoping for. But I don't think that will ever really exist, and I do think Samyang have done a very good job here at finding that middle ground to walk with minimal compromises on either side. I've also been very impressed by the image quality from these lenses. All of their VDSLR and Xene lenses historically have had quite a similar look to them, and so I was expecting that to be the same case here. However, it's not. This must be a fairly new optical design from Samyang, as they definitely don't look the same as the VDSLR lenses. This is the 35mm from both ranges, V-AF on the left and VDSLR on the right. The VDSLR has a shallower max aperture at 1.5, so that's why it looks shallower and brighter. But the V-AF lens has much nicer colour rendition in my opinion. Patrick's skin looks much more natural, and it seems to be a decent amount sharper on his face as well. There's also a big difference in the bokeh. The VDSLR lenses have this quite pronounced onion skinning inside their bokeh, which some people like, but I've never really been that keen on at all. These V-AF lenses don't seem to do this. The fairy lights here are nice and smooth and clean, and this stays consistent all the way through the range. The colour also stays similar across the three lenses, so they do seem to be a well-matched set. Sharpness was also very consistent and didn't drop much at all when wide open compared to T4, although there is definitely quite a bit of vignetting when wide open. Overall, I have been really impressed by these lenses. The images look great, the autofocus works well, they have some interesting new smart features, and they are incredibly small and lightweight. So who would these actually be for? Well, they're only available in E-mount, so that limits them to just Sony users with cameras like the FX3, FX6, FX30 or A7S Mark III. All of which have fantastic autofocus performance, which owners will want to take advantage of. The main reason to invest in a set of Cinema Primes is of course that they match when you go between focal lengths. And up until now, you've never really been able to do that and combine it with keeping autofocus. You've had to either go manual with cinema lenses or had to go to stills lenses where matching isn't quite as important across the range in the design process. So I think there is a big market for lenses like this. I'm hoping this really is the start of something, and we'll see all kinds of brands make lenses like this. But for now, kudos to Samyang for being the brand to actually push things forward and try something new. It's not always going to work, but here I think it really has. These are nice lenses at a really, really very good price. And if you want to order these for yourself, head over to prov.co.uk and let me know what you think of them down in the comment section. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.